Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a deep pool of ancient wisdom today, pulling up a text that is, well, it's essential for anyone serious about philosophical inquiry, but it's often, relegated to the shadows by its more famous counterpart. We are talking about the Ashtavakra Gita.
That's absolutely right. It's also known as the Ashtavakra Samhita. And look, if the Bhagavad Gita is this beautifully staged drama that prepares you for the highest truth,
Right.
the Ashtavakra Gita is that truth delivered directly, instantly, without any preamble. It's radical in its approach.
I found it really interesting that our sources highlight that even among scholars of Vedanta, the tradition drawing from the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, this text is lauded for its sheer clarity. Why does it get that kind of praise?
It's because of the texture of the language. I mean, when you're dealing with the nature of supreme reality, which is, by definition, it's beyond words, texts often have to resort to negation or hints or these long, drawn-out analogies. One commentary I read put it beautifully. It suggested that the Upanishads might stammer and the Bhagavad Gita might hesitate with an excusable shyness when trying to communicate the absolute.
Because they're trying to point at something that you can't really wrap words around.
Precisely. But the Ashtavakra Samhita, by contrast, it's just admired for its brilliant success in communicating that nature more clearly, more directly than maybe any of them. It doesn't tiptoe. It is a direct shot, an arrow aimed right at the heart of the matter. It tells you exactly what you are and what the world is without compromise.
Okay, so let's set the stage for this. This text is a dialogue, right? A conversation between two figures.
Right.
The sage Ashtavakra and the philosopher King Janaka. What was the catalyst for this whole thing?
The origin story is, it's foundational. You really need to get it to understand the text's conclusion. So King Janaka, despite being known for his immense wisdom, they called him Videha, bodiless.
Meaning he was detached.
Extremely detached. But he suffered this profound moment of existential vertigo, and it happened during a simple afternoon nap.
A nap that turns into a full-blown philosophical crisis. That's where the best insights always start, isn't it?
In this case, yes. So while he's napping, he dreams vividly that he's lost his entire kingdom. He's running for his life in just abject poverty, desperate, hunted, totally miserable. He wakes up, drenched in sweat, completely disoriented.
And what was the lingering trauma from that? What was the question?
The central question that just consumed him was, which state is real? Am I King Janaka on my throne with all this wealth and power, or am I that poor peasant running for my life? He knew that both experiences, while they were happening, felt absolutely unequivocally real. And he just entered this state of profound silence for days, unable to resolve it.
And this is where Ashtavakra enters the picture and delivers the first and maybe most radical teaching. He just negates the entire premise of Janaka's suffering.
It's spectacular. Ashtavakra tells him, both are unreal. The text starts by negating the reality of the dream world and the waking world. We all intuitively grant absolute reality to our waking life, our jobs, our families. But Ashtavakra says, no, the waking state is on par with the dream state. Both are just appearances, projections.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there. Because this is where the friction comes in, right? Most other schools, even within the Indian tradition, will argue that the waking world has a higher degree of reality. It's verifiable. Others see it too. If Ashtavakra negates both, isn't he basically denying all purpose in action?
That is the common resistance, and that's why this text is so sharp. He isn't saying the world doesn't appear. He's denying its ultimate, permanent reality. He's saying the waking world is just a longer, more consistent dream, a collective delusion, as we'll get into. If your identity is based on whether you're the king or the beggar, you are equally mistaken in both cases, because your true identity is the awareness that witnessed both. By saying both are unreal, he forces Janaka and you, the listener, to look for the reality that transcends both of them.
That reframes the entire quest. Now, let's talk about the teacher himself. His name, Ashtavakra. It's so specific. Deformity in 8 places. Why attach such a jarring physical description to a philosopher?
It serves as a necessary symbolic detail. The deformity immediately emphasizes that true wisdom, true self-realization, is utterly independent of the physical body. It's a powerful nonverbal teaching right from the start. The one who has transcended the body is operating in a different realm.
It sets up that core theme.
Yeah.
Don't mistake the container for the contents.
Exactly. You can think of a modern parallel like Stephen Hawking. He had one of the most brilliant minds of our age, giving us these tremendous insights about the cosmos. Yet his physical body was so severely limited. His condition had absolutely zero relationship to the quality of his insights. Ashtavakra embodies that for the inner life.
And there's that famous story about his entry into Janaka's court that really drives this home.
It's a perfect setup. When Ashtavakra arrived, despite his evident wisdom, the people in the court, supposedly great scholars, they started laughing openly because of his appearance. And Ashtavakra's immediate, sharp retort was just stunning. He looked at them and said, "Alas, I thought I was entering the court of a great philosopher king, filled with wise people, but I find only leather merchants sitting here who are interested only in my skin."
Wow, that cuts deep. He just dismissed their entire intellectual identity by showing them they were completely preoccupied with the superficial, the outer layer.
And that establishes the entire premise of the text. If you are focused on the body, on appearance, on the transient, you are disqualified from understanding this wisdom. And that, for you, the learner, is the mission statement of this deep dive. This text offers a direct, immediate approach to the truth, bypassing all the intermediate steps. It's about getting free, right here, right now.
That sets us up perfectly for our next section.
Yeah.
How does this direct approach actually work? How does it contrast with the methods we're more familiar with?
Well, if we look at the standard approach to spiritual growth, we're often encouraged to follow specific practices, disciplines, stages, what we call sadhanas. This is the path of the Bhagavad Gita.
Right. The Gita starts with Arjuna's crisis on the battlefield. He's facing his family. And then Sri Krishna basically becomes his life coach, his guide.
Precisely. Krishna gives the absolute highest teaching in Chapter 2, defining the self and its immortality. But then, knowing Arjuna is just completely overwhelmed, he immediately pivots. He spends the next 16 chapters walking Arjuna and us step by step through preparatory practices. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga. It's a measured, staged approach.
So Krishna presents the highest vision, but then he gives you the meticulous roadmap to get there.
Exactly. He's scaffolding the teaching. The Ashtavakra Gita, though, it employs what the tradition calls Sakshat Upadesha, direct instruction. Ashtavakra assumes King Janaka, who's already achieved so much detachment, is ready for the final jump. He doesn't discuss preparedness or rituals. He just gives you the ultimate truth and says, in effect, here it is, now you deal with it.
That sounds incredibly demanding. I mean, in a modern context, we're so used to a cushioned step-by-step process for everything.
It is challenging, and it highlights the first prerequisite for engaging with this text. You have to tolerate being fundamentally disturbed. We often seek truth for comfort, and, ultimately it provides infinite comfort. But the first thing direct truth does is demolish your current worldview. If you're studying Vedanta and it's not disturbing your comfort zone, you're probably doing it wrong.
Meaning, we're just treating it like background consumption.
We're listening casually, like you'd listen to a sophisticated concert, appreciating the performance, the beauty, but without internalizing it, without applying it to your own life. It just becomes intellectual entertainment.
In this demand for transformation, it requires reverence. You mentioned that anecdote about Swami Chinmayananda.
It's a crucial insight. He asked his followers not to listen to the teachings in, say, the bathroom. And this wasn't about some kind of misplaced moralism. It was about the necessity of focus, of dedication. Casual listening while you're driving is fine. It's a form of shravana, but you must dedicate focused time to this without multitasking. We have to rise up to the level of the truth, not pull it down to our level of comfort.
So if the insight is sacred in its ability to liberate, we have to treat the process of receiving it with the gravity it deserves.
Absolutely. Think of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, where Krishna says, this wisdom should not be given to the unprepared or the scornful. Ashtavakra just bypasses that entire structure. He assumes readiness. He assumes Janaka has done the work.
He's not going to test his qualifications. He's just going to deliver that final insight.
It's the final stroke. In traditional rituals, when sculpting a deity, the very last step is called Netran Milana, painting the eyes. It's what completes the transformation of the stone into the divine. Ashtavakra is doing the Netran Milana on Janaka's consciousness. He assumes the sculpture is finished and just needs that final clarifying touch.
The implication for us is clear then. We have to stop the narrative of I'm not ready. The direct teaching urges us to realize freedom here and now.
Why lament about preparedness? We know for sure we are living and breathing right now. The problem is here, the self is here, so the solution must be here. Let's be free here and now. We don't need to wait for better circumstances or retirement. Freedom is available in the immediate present. That is the revolutionary call of this text.
That direct, unapologetic call leads us right into the core philosophy, starting with the supreme importance of knowledge, or Bodha.
We open with verse 1, where Ashtavakra offers Namashanteya salutations to consciousness alone. He's paying homage to the self. And he immediately states the radical conclusion. The entire world, the Jagat, will become like a dream, a mere appearance or Brahma, a delusion, upon the rise of true knowledge, Bodha.
That's a remarkable claim.
Mm-hmm.
The entire objective reality we live in just collapses when Bodha dawns. This puts true understanding way above any action or ritual.
This is the central tenet of non-dual Vedanta. Ashtavakra is emphasizing that the problem of samsara, not just rebirth, but our current mental cycle of suffering, wanting, disappointment, it disappears only with the true understanding of the world's nature. It's not eliminated by action.
Okay, let's spend some time on the classic analogy that proves this point. The rope and the snake.
It's the perfect illustration. So imagine you walk into a dimly lit room and you see something coiled on the floor. Instantly, your mind projects snake and terror grips you. Now, your goal is to get rid of the snake.
So my first reaction might be something ritualistic.
Right. Will chanting snake mantras 1,000 times remove the snake? No. Will you perform a fire ritual, a homa? No. Will you go on a pilgrimage, meditating on safety?
No. None of those efforts, no matter how intense, can touch the source of the problem.
They can't, because the snake is an error of perception, not a physical thing. What removes the snake is samyak darshana, right seeing, which comes from what?
Flipping on the light.
Flip it on the light. The moment the light comes on, the snake is instantly revealed to be a harmless rope.
The knowledge Bodha is the light.
Exactly. The illusory snake disappears only with right seeing. No other effort, no ritual, no action will eliminate the illusion. Ashtavakra is teaching that our suffering is just like the fear of that rope snake. It's entirely illusory, and Bodha alone shatters it.
And the shattering is instantaneous, you're saying, not a slow, painful process.
The preparation of the mind can take years, of course, but the understanding itself, that moment of realization, is immediate. You can't be halfway convinced that the snake is a rope. You either know it or you don't.
That moment must be so jarring when an entire structure of reality collapses. Let's look at that analogy of the cheating brother.
Imagine a large traditional joint family. The brothers have lived together for 25 years. They celebrate everything together, run the family business, total trust. The older brother fundamentally relies on this illusion of his younger brother's love and integrity. Then one day, he finds undeniable proof, a document, a bank statement, that his younger brother has been systematically cheating him for years.
That's the moment of realization.
And the illusion of care, of love, of support, it shatters in that instant. It doesn't take 3 months. In that single moment, the entire history of their relationship is reframed as a lie. The whole thing is revealed as fake. That emotional and mental collapse is the instantaneous shattering of illusion.
It's the same shock that Jim Carrey's character had in The Truman Show. He starts noticing the patterns, the repetition, and in one flash, he realizes it's all a set, a delusion.
And what did he do? He didn't start a new ritual. He walked out. Ashtavakra calls the world a collective delusion, a Brahma. We see patterns, sunrise, seasons, markets, and we impose all this significance and purpose onto them. But if you really inquire, Ashtavakra suggests these are just the logic of the set, without any ultimate, independent meaning.
This brings back my earlier friction point, though. If the world's a delusion, what's the incentive to act ethically or to care for others? Doesn't this just lead to apathy?
That's the essential question. Ashtavakra's reply is that the illusion is shattered internally, not externally. Recognizing the rope is a rope doesn't stop you from walking around the room. The wise person, the jnani, acts from a place of consciousness, which is defined by joy and completeness. When you are complete, compassion flows naturally because you see the suffering of others as part of the same consciousness. The incentive to act remains, but the compulsion to act vanishes.
That's a huge difference. Action from compassion, not from personal need.
Exactly. And to get there, we have to locate ourselves outside the delusion. And this requires applying that principle of reality. What changes is unreal, temporary. What doesn't change is real. Your body is constantly changing. Seeking permanency in it is the delusion. The I, the conscious witness, the drik, is permanent and unchanging.
So the fundamental action is shifting our identification from the observed, the drishya, to the observer, the drik.
When that right knowledge dawns, the delusion of thinking the body is a permanent identity just falls away. When you locate yourself in that drik, that conscious witness, you find permanency right here, right now, and that is the source of absolute freedom.
That focus on the driks, the changeless observer, expands beautifully in the next section, where Ashtavakra bows down to the consciousness whose very nature is sukha. Now, we often translate sukha as happiness, but that seems too simple.
We have to be precise here. If sukha were just happiness, it would be a passing emotion tied to circumstance, which would defeat the whole point. The true foundational substitute for sukha here is purnatvam, which means completeness. It's the recognition that in your essential nature, I lack nothing.
An absolute state of self-sufficiency. How does that contrast with our ordinary experience?
The entire body-mind realm, the drishya, is characterized by inherent lack. We operate from perpetual inadequacy. I mean, stand in front of a mirror. Even if you're successful and healthy, your mind instantly finds the flaws, right? The wrinkles, the weight, the goals not yet met. The body-mind is a site of permanent inadequacy, forcing us into action to fill that perceived lack.
And the moment we locate ourselves as the drick.
There is no lack whatsoever. The definition of consciousness is infinite. How can the infinite lack anything? It's only when you take yourself to be the body, this finite container, that the concept of lack appears. The world outside might not change, the bills still arrive, but your perception of it changes radically. It no longer has the power to disturb you.
Let's use a simple object like a coffee cup to really nail down the difference between the changing observed, the drisha, and the unchanging observer, the drick.
Okay, take that cup of hot coffee. As you hold it, the temperature inevitably dips. The coffee itself changes. It had a birth when it was brewed, sustenance as you drink it, and an end when it's gone. The coffee belongs to the realm of the observed, the drisha.
But the drick, the consciousness that is aware of the coffee being hot, then warm, then gone.
That drick remains the changeless witness of the whole sequence. Consciousness doesn't get colder when the coffee does. It doesn't disappear when the coffee is gone. It's untouched. We can actually systematize this by looking at the 6 changes, the Shadvikaras, in Vedantic philosophy.
These are the fundamental modifications that define everything transient. They belong only to the drisha. Let's walk through them.
Every single object you can name, your car, your career, your body, undergoes these 6 changes. First is asti. It exists. The potential is there. Second, jayate. It is born or sprouts. Third, vardhate. It grows. Fourth, parinamate. It modifies or changes. Fifth, apakshyate. It decays. And finally, 6th, vinashyati. It dies or dissolves.
Everything in the realm of appearance, from a star to a blade of grass, goes through those 6 stages. But the observer, the drick.
The witness is changeless. The drick is present in the past, present, and future. I mean, think about deep sleep. When you wake up and say, I slept deeply, that implies a witness was present to observe that state of absence. The witness is the non-changing background to the changing foreground. No change, no beginning, no end.
The practical implication for the listener is enormous. If I locate myself as this infinite self, how does that change my perspective on loss and gain?
The moment you identify with the finite, your job, your health, you are immediately gripped by the fear of loss. The finite is, by definition, vulnerable. But if you are located in the infinite self, concepts like loss, gain, success, failure, they're just mental labels applied to temporary states. They belong to the drishya.
How can the infinite lose anything? So the anxiety over the stock market or a career depends entirely on me identifying with the finite object being observed.
Exactly. Anything that is put together will end one day. But the self is not put together. It's the fundamental reality. Recognizing that fact just eradicates the root of existential insecurity.
Moving on from the self, Ashtavakra then goes even deeper into the world's nature in verse 2, stating that this world, this bhava, this constant state of becoming, is merely a mental projection, pavana mantram.
This is truly the philosophical core. He's arguing against giving ultimate physical reality to the world. He says, look closely. The entire world you interact with appears, finally, only as a thought. A havana.
I have to bring up that common objection again. But I can see the world. I can touch this laptop. How can this be a mere thought?
And Vedanta says, yes, we agree, you can see and touch it, but it's a collective delusion. We can analyze this at 2 levels. First, the technical neurobiological level. When you look at a flower, redness is not an independent quality in the flower. Your retina and your brain are wired to project the sensation of redness onto it. All adjectives, heavy, fast, loud, are superimposed by your perception.
They are dependent on the observer.
Yes, and the subjective level is even clearer. We project qualities like beauty, auspiciousness, or inauspiciousness. The flower itself has none of that. We supply it. The world is utterly mind-dependent.
You use the analogy of the world of coffee. Let's expand on that.
For years, coffee was just a drink to me. The intricate world of coffee, the roasts, the flavor profiles, the brewing methods was non-existent in my reality. It only came into being. It became part of my world once I directed my mind and my attention to it.
It's like a torch beam. When you point it at a dark corner, that corner is illuminated and comes into being for you. When you withdraw your attention, that part of the world just rests. It ceases to exist for you.
And we experience the ultimate proof of this every single night, the deep sleep test. Sushupti. Think about the world you worry about right now, your home, your investments, your relationships. Every night for 6, 7, 8 hours, that entire world is non-existent to you.
We are effectively dead to the very world we created and maintain.
Precisely. We create that complex world through thought and attention, and the moment that attention is withdrawn in deep sleep, it vanishes entirely. This proves its provisional, thought-based nature. If the world were fundamentally real, it should exist for us even when the mind is absent. It doesn't. So it's bhavana matram.
This realization drastically changes how we approach worry. The ignorant person, the ajnani, engages with life with total, fundamental seriousness.
Yes, like a child playing with Legos. The child is deadly serious about the castle. If you knock it over, the child cries because that configuration is their reality. The wise person, the jnani, their approach is like play. They maintain serious involvement, they pay their taxes, but they acknowledge that the rules of the game are ultimately imaginary, a mental category.
And the source material expands this to life being a logicless movie.
The whole flow of life birth to now is just this sprawling movie. It often unfolds without any real reason or logic, it just happens. But what creates our suffering? We constantly try to supply a rigid, personalized script to this vast, logicless movie.
We impose the expectation of how things should be.
Every disappointment, every burst of anger, every jump of elation is due to events either not unfolding or unfolding according to our script.
Yeah.
We refuse to accept the movie as it is. We demand that the director follow our poorly written subplot.
This even includes our spiritual practice, which often becomes about trying to modify the script.
It becomes transactional. We pray not to surrender to a larger plan, but specifically to change external events, get the promotion, get the outcome. The struggle isn't with the world, it's with our stubborn insistence that life must conform to my limited, self-serving script. The moment you drop that insistence, the world is exposed as a mere appearance.
The moment of letting go is the moment of liberation.
It's the moment the rope becomes the rope. Gaudapadacharya's movie light analogy summarizes this brilliantly. We sit in a dark room and see a 2-hour movie full of birth, crisis, war, dissolution.
And the core question is, has anything happened to the light that's projecting the movie?
No, nothing whatsoever. The light is untouched by the tragedy or the triumph. Our life experiences, the sorrow, the joy, career ups and downs, are like the movie projections, illuminated by the unchanging light of awareness that we are. We aren't denying you feel pain or strive for success, but we are questioning the fundamental reality of those experiences.
And the proof that this is a mental show is the enormous, constant effort required to maintain it.
If the world were solid reality, it shouldn't need constant reinforcement. Why do we need anniversaries, maintenance schedules, continuous effort to keep everything afloat? The fact that you have to constantly work to maintain a happy marriage proves its non-solid, fragile nature. The show breaks down without effort. That should be the biggest signpost that this whole thing is pavana matram.
So let's look at the consequence of these insights in Section 5, describing the embodied wise person, the jnani. What does a person who has internalized this actually look like?
The jnani has reached a firm, unshakable conclusion, an ashaya. The entire visible universe is illusory, Branti Matram. It's flimsy, it's subject to change and destruction.
The text forces us to recognize this by reminding us that everything we see is already pre-ash.
That's a stark, powerful image. Everything we touch, including our own body, is destined to be ashes. In the Hindu tradition, we use vibhuti, ashes, to symbolize this fact. The question then becomes, why so much attachment, so much mamakara or mindness to this temporary phenomenon?
The analogy of the body as an intermediate food stage is quite vivid.
It is designed to shock us out of our reverence for the physical form. Think of the cycle. Food becomes the body, which becomes excreta. The body is just an intermediate stage of food, annamaya. Do we have attachment to the raw ingredients? No. Do we identify with the excreta? No.
Yet this brief transitional stage in the middle, we hold with this profound sense of me and mine.
The jnani has seen through that. This isn't about neglecting the body. It's about removing the insistence on its ultimate permanence or identity. Once that insistence is gone, the internal stress disappears.
And this leads to the jnani's inner state of nirvasana being without latent impressions or deep emotional tendencies.
Nirvasana means perfect neutrality. And this state isn't some impossible superhuman thing. We are already neutral to vast parts of the world. Think of all the objects and people you see in a day that elicit zero emotional response. No like, no dislike. The Gyani simply extends this neutrality to the entire world, including their own body and personality. The script has ended. There's no emotional aftertaste.
And when those attachments dissolve, the personality itself fades, revealing the pure light of awareness.
That Gyani shines only as the light of awareness or wisdom, Svirtimatra. All the heavy layers of persona and labels have dissolved. The world only seems dense and problematic when our conceptions about it are dense and fixed. The world dissolves as a problem when we dissolve our rigid mental conceptions about it.
A natural question follows, though. If the world is illusory, does the Gyani just stop all activity and become immobile?
Absolutely not. The Gyani maintains activity but is profoundly established in Jnana. The text uses everyday activities to illustrate this. Passion, seeing, Shrimban hearing, expression, touching, Jaran smelling, Ashton, eating. They continue ordinary life, but their inner state is entirely different. They act, but they're not compelled to act.
They're centered while sailing through the waters of life, which is symbolized by the Hamsa, the swan.
The swan is a potent symbol. It's active, it's constantly moving, yet it appears so steady and effortless. This profound centeredness, the stillness amidst motion, is the mark of the jhani. They realize fulfillment comes only from knowledge, not from endless acquisition. Real renunciation, Vairagya, isn't giving up objects, it's giving up the mental script we cling to.
This frees them from compulsion, or kritis.
Compulsions, the things we have to do, arise from intense liking and disliking, from ragadvesha, which is fueled by a sense of an intact, solid personality. The Gyani understands that their personality, the labels like Indian, American, CEO, mother, it's just a myth. It's flimsy, dependent on context. The exercise is to see the flimsiness of the personality so you can transcend the compulsions driven by its maintenance.
That focus on practicality and internal freedom brings us to our final section. How to translate this into immediate, practical shifts. What's the first step of sadhana once we accept this vision?
The initial step is to learn to appreciate the objective order versus our subjective layer. This is the crucial distinction between Ishvara Srishti and Jiva Srishti.
Ishvara Srishti being God's creation, the universal objective order.
This is the unchangeable facts of existence. The sun rises, gravity works, food satisfies hunger, traffic exists, death is inevitable. Did we create any of this? No. This is the order of things. It just is.
The Jiva Srishti is our individual subjective imposition onto that order.
This is our mental contribution. I like Thai food, not Italian. My coffee must be blonde roast or I'm irritable. This job must be permanent for me to feel secure. This is the ego, the me, stamping its finite preference onto the infinite order. The goal is to gradually reduce the thickness of the Jiva Srishti. Less of me, more of Ishvara. Be located in the world as it is, not as we demand it to be.
We spend our lives spinning a web of subjective preferences and then we get stuck in it. We need a map for exit. This is the Abhimanyu syndrome.
Abhimanyu, the warrior, knew how to enter the military formation but didn't know how to exit. We, too, know how to enter the world. We spin the web of attachments with our own thoughts, but we lack the knowledge to get unstuck. The Gita and the Upanishads are those exit maps. We can't physically abandon our homes, but we must separate from the overwhelming mental load and the fixed conceptions we have about them.
You use a striking analogy here about hooks and loops.
Think of the world as having countless loops, possessions, relationships, status. The hook, the ability to attach, is with you. We willingly insert the hook into the loop and then shout, "I'm bound, this world is holding me captive."
We are the source of our own binding.
We need to stop the incredibly stupid, persistent mental conception that we're bound by external circumstances. The circumstances are loops, they're inert. The dynamic binding force is our own attachment, our own hook.
The ultimate sign of the Gyani's internal transformation is this resilience, beating every encounter, good or bad, with an internal dialogue that just says, so what?
That is the vaccine for attachment. The promise of Vedanta is internal freedom, freedom from inner conflict. It does not promise freedom from external things like hurricanes or market corrections. You get a massive promotion, you celebrate, but internally. So what? Your investments double, maybe you buy a new car, but internally, so what? This attitude recognizes the utter meaninglessness of external addition or subtraction to the infinite self.
That sounds like a powerful, deep contentment that we just rarely see. We're often caught in these ironic cycles because we can't sustain our own convictions.
Think about it. We spend thousands on a European vacation to escape our ordinary life, only to immediately crave familiar comfort foods the moment we get home. We leave with enthusiasm, only wanting to come back to the exact same place we spent money trying to escape from. We defeat our own purpose. The Jnani breaks that pattern because they realize the external world can't add anything of substance to the self.
That brings us to our concluding anecdote, which really distills this wisdom into a single, beautiful image.
The story of the small boy who was unwell but insisted on coming to a gathering. His mother explained he was suffering. When someone kindly asked the boy how he was doing, he replied, "I am fine. Tooth is aching."
That is the separation between the drik and the drisha made profoundly practical.
That's the entire Ashtavakra Gita. I am fine. The kitchen sink is leaking. I am fine. My investments are down. I am fine. My political party lost. The self, consciousness, is whole, complete, and untouched by the temporary changing circumstances of the mind, body, and world. This is the radical conclusion of Ashtavakra, living at ease with life without inner disturbance.
What a profound and rigorous journey. We've explored the radical, immediate nature of knowledge, bodha, the instantaneous shattering of delusion, the recognition that the world is bhavana matram, a mere mental projection, and the definition of a jnani who is internally free, radiating wisdom even amidst intense activity.
And remember, this knowledge isn't meant to be just intellectual wallpaper. It's meant to be fundamentally transformational. The entire effort of Vedanta and the direct instruction of this text is not to keep you bound to an institution or as an eternal student. The purpose is for you to become fundamentally free, here and now. The relationship of the guru and the student truly ends when the student realizes they are fundamentally the same as the teacher. Both are just water, differentiated only by temporary waves.
That realization should be the goal, not just appreciating the philosophy. And to encourage that, we have to move beyond just listening or shravana, which is what you've done today.
You must dedicate time to structured contemplation and meditation, nididhyasana. This is the process of integrating the knowledge until it becomes your living reality. So the final provocative thought for every listener to take away and chew on is this. If you had to check your internal progress right now, what is the single biggest toxic comfort, that deep emotional investment or burden that you absolutely refuse to give up that prevents you from accepting the world as a mere appearance?
That attachment.
Yeah.
That investment is the hook you refuse to withdraw from the loop.
Exactly. Find that area of intense, non-negotiable attachment, and you have found your next, most challenging, and most rewarding step toward the ultimate freedom promised by Ashtavakra.
That's a powerful challenge to end on. Thank you for guiding us through the radical clarity of the Ashtavakra Gita.